today I'm really excited because today is Friday and it's the best day to talk about Rust. I mean, every day is good to talk about Rust, but today we'll have a really deep dive with a CEO of a company, public speaker, and we will talk about different topics, especially about Rust and jobs, and if Rust is really like the language that you should learn. Hi, everyone. You should absolutely say hi in the chat. Hi, Ariane. So we have Nat Simard. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly,
Yeah, Nathaniel
but
Simard. Yeah, it's hard to
perfect.
pronounce. Yeah.
I tried my best. Please introduce yourself and welcome in this episode of Talking with Francesco series. How are you?
I'm doing great. And you?
I feel great. Felt great. Things are going a bit busy, and but yes, I feel great, and I was really looking forward for this open conversation. I want to remind you that this will be open conversation, so feel free to drop your questions if you want. You have questions about Rust, especially in the jobs let's say area. If is it worth to learn Rust, to get money, actually land a job, because this is, I think, one of the topics that might be a bit hard to talk about, but I always want to be super transparent about this topic. So I think this conversation will be very useful also for me. Hi, by the way, people are starting to show up. I think we should be live also on Twitter and Twitch. Hi, everyone. And I think that we can start talking about you. So I would like to know
Yeah.
more about you, a bit of your background. We had a very quick chat, so it's good because we still don't know each other. And I think it's an opportunity for us to know more. And we also have something to share about if we will meet, where, but we will say this later. So let's start with your introduction and a bit about your background. If you're in the chat, of course, say hi.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So, my background is actually mostly in software engineering and AI. So I did my undergrad in Quebec City, so in Canada, in software engineering, and most of the time programming was done in Python and Java during my undergrad studies. But at the end of it, I actually was interested in Rust, so I learned Rust for fun. I think it's uh, 5 to 10 years ago now, so it wasn't really popular back then. But still, it was great to learn. And later on, I had my first job as a consultant, so I worked a lot with Java. After that, I was really interested in AI. It was before the ChatGPT era, but I saw the potential after the early movement uh, with AlphaGo. So I wanted to specialize in that. So I moved to Montreal. I did my master's in AI there, and um and yeah, it took about 2 years, and after that I went back to the industry. So I was working for a startup at the time, and I was actually the first employee. So I did a lot of different things. So a lot of software engineering and a lot of machine learning. And for one of our product, we actually work a lot with Rust. So I used the language before. It has evolved a lot after that time, and it was really a good move. Actually, I thought it was pretty risky at the time because I think it's around 4 years ago, so it was pretty risky, but it paid off because Rust is great to maintain. You can still go fast, and um, and yeah, it was before a lot of big tech actually announced publicly that they were using it. So today I think it's less controversial to use Rust. But yeah, so that's pretty much my background. Today, I founded my company, so based of an open source project that I made. So it's Burn for the ones that are interested. So it's trying to evolve the Rust ecosystem and create a place for AI to do neural network for training and inference. A lot of it today is done in Python and C++. So I wanted to bring a lot of those uh, libraries to Rust. So yeah.
Perfect. So, okay, so we can say that you have been, let's say, an early adopter both for AI
Yeah.
and Rust. I think Rust turned 10 now, so basically you just you you basically started learning Rust since the beginning, I would say. And so, okay, great. That's great. And so you started playing around and working with Rust. You had, I think, different experiences. And yeah, I'd like to know maybe a bit about the process, maybe of using Rust. I don't know if you were using Rust for yourself or for a company for a while, and then maybe how do you become maybe the CEO of a company? How it is this experience? If was your first experience, so let's keep going and let's talk about this, and then we'll talk about the Rust ecosystem and jobs. I think we can go with this part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first time I pick up Rust, it was not for a company. It was actually for fun during my undergrad, like I said. So if you're learning a language, I think it's always good to start uh, yourself on your own project, trying to really focus on learning, not necessarily on being productive. But some of my colleagues at the first startup that I worked for, it was their first time writing Rust, and the learning curve was a bit hard, but they still got productive in a few weeks. So I think it's definitively manageable. And yeah, I think the first time I pick up Rust, async Rust was not a thing, and the second time it was actually a thing. So it was more niche at the beginning, focused a lot on um, focused a lot on lower level languages, lower level system programming. Now today with async Rust, we have a lot of ecosystem, a lot of crates out there with Tokyo, with Axiom, so you can do web services easily with Rust. They are performance resilient, so that's actually what I built at the last company, at the startup. So it was a lot of backend stuff, and also a bit of web search. So we built a search engine in Rust also. So those are the two things that that I built with Rust at the beginning. So yeah,
Yeah, perfect. So you used Rust for backend services.
yeah,
Yeah, and did you use any framework back then? I was
yeah,
curious.
yeah. I think I used Warp. So it was before Axiom got
Okay.
released. So it's a functional approach to network routing. It's yeah. I
Okay.
don't recall easily all of the APIs, but yeah, we used Rust.
Okay. 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 So I just want to quickly mention that I don't know if you noticed, but on the Stack Overflow, Stack Overflow Survey 2025, Rust first won again as admired programming language. I think all the haters they were there waiting for that news, but they got disappointed for one more year. And I noticed something that I think not everyone noticed is that for the first time on the list of the favorite web frameworks, we have a Rust web framework. I think it's Axiom on the list of the favorite frameworks, oh no, along with Express and Django and
Oh,
oh
really? It's
no,
the least favorite framework.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
yes, but still, I would say that it's impressive that we have because I've been, for example, doing like even talks about Rust and web development, where basically no one knows, maybe just one
Yeah,
person in a whole room, they know the framework. So seeing that on a official Stack Overflow survey, it means okay, so maybe people are starting to be interested because also the let's remember that the topic of this talk is of the interview is that is Rust just for system programming or not?
yeah,
So it's interesting, especially for me, especially for web development because
yeah,
I have this background. So nice to know that you've been already using have been using Rust backend services for a while. Amazing, amazing, great. So, okay, so about your experience, so with as a CEO, maybe with companies and so on, we can also talk more about it because I'm really curious, and maybe know more like what you're currently doing, how you're currently doing, and how Rust is also part of your company. I'm sure there is also some other stack, but I'm
yeah,
curious maybe if you're also using it somewhere for some services or not, or just for a single service or for everything. So really curious about this part, Nat.
yeah. So it's a pretty new startup, right? It's not a big company yet. I started the company after my open source project got a bit of traction. So I wanted to move full time to work on the open source project and create a company around it. So it's the original project was Burn, so it's an open source deep learning framework. So that allows developer and machine learning engineers, researcher to actually build neural networks in Rust, train them on any hardware, and deploy them for inference. So I wanted to make a full stack deep learning solution in Rust. So yeah, I created a company around that project. So today we have multiple open source projects in the company. So we've got also kubecl, so which is similar to a CUDA replacement that can cross compiles to different graphics APIs. So you can deploy on the web GPU in the browser with Wasm. You can deploy on CUDA and leverage all of the good hardware that NVIDIA is creating with tensor cores and all of those things. So those are the two main projects for now. We also released last week, I think, a new project to actually run LLM on your device, built with all of the tools that we created. It's still in alpha stage, so it's not really for usage, but we're going there. Um, and all of those things is open source. So the goal is actually to create a big ecosystem of AI in Rust. And I'm creating a company, so not everything's going to be free. So we're also working on a cloud platform that actually support a lot of our users to actually deploy and train their models. So it's supposed to be released probably this year, and a lot of it is actually in Rust. So this is more web backend, web framework. So we have full stack developers working on this, and all of the backend is actually in Rust. All of the developer SDKs are all in Rust. For the front end, right now, we're still using TypeScript to build a front end. I think there are solutions in Rust now that are pretty compelling, especially with Deoxys. They actually managed to do the hot reloading directly in the browser. I think this is really important because the main reason why we started with TypeScript to build the front end is that if you're building a visual application, you need to have visual feedback as you're developing it. So even 1 or 2 seconds of compilation time is too long. So the compilation time in Rust is not its strongest asset, let's say. Sometimes it can be long. So for front end, we needed something that is more that is faster. The iteration feedback should be fast. So that's why we went with TypeScript. I'm really excited about Diaxis and see where they go with all of the hot reloading stuff that they're doing. Maybe at some point we're gonna write the front end also in Rust. So yeah, so this is an overview of
Cool.
what we're doing. Yeah.
Perfect. So I think I tried the Diaxis just once. I also mentioned this in Rust and Web Framework talk. I've used U a couple of times. I also have a full stack full stack REST API application built with U, and I also like that. I think Nexus is a full stack framework. So you also write the backend with it, or would you prefer to use Nexus just on the front end and then use another framework as a backend?
Yeah, I think they have kind of a remote
Mm,
function executable. Um, I think Leptos has something similar too. Um,
okay.
I've not used them professionally, so just for fun to test them out. So yeah, I'm not sure I can really comment on those features. I'm pretty old-fashioned in that area, so I write my backends normally decoupled from the front end. But yeah, sometime for fast prototyping, maybe it's really useful to have those features. And you
Perfect.
did you use that in some of your projects?
What? What?
Did you use the remote function or the automatic API
No,
creation from those
not
projects?
yet. No, not yet. I've tried different frameworks. I tried Actix in a presentation with just I'm exposing some HTML. Axum, not much, and yes, and I mean, and I think something with the backend. I think the Leptos. I think there was also one called
Yeah, Leptos is
Leptos.
I think it's similar to Dioxys actually.
Yes, it's a full stack. I think Nexus is also for mobile. They claim it's also for mobile, which is interesting.
Yeah, Dioxys is. I think they are very ambitious in their technical stack. So they're writing a lot of high performance stuff, very hard stuff to build. So their framework is. Yeah, I'm really looking towards what they're building with hot reloading. They have binary patching. I think they're contributing to the Rust compiler for that. So it's a lot of
Hmm.
infrastructure stuff.
Hmm.
Leptos, I think, is a bit simpler. So probably right now less likely to face bugs. Unsure about that, but
Hmm.
maybe. But yeah, yeah,
Yes, and for example, I'm really looking forward for the RustConf 2025, where probably I will also know more about this ecosystem. I'm sure that there will be some good news, because even if I I try to staying up to date every day about at least the Rust AI and Docker. It's not that easy to me, even if it's part of my job now. So I'm also say I booked the flight and hotel today to come to RustConf. So
yeah, you have to do
it
that.
it's probably happening. Yes, I just want to put some pressure. And yes, so maybe before talking about the RustConf, or what will be our experience with those, I think we mentioned something about workshops. I would like to talk a bit about you about the main topic, which is this like, is Rust just for system programming, which is a myth, or we can say a stereotype.
Yeah,
And I would like to have a discussion with you about Rust ecosystems and real jobs, because some questions that people address me, even on social media, or sometimes in DMs, or sometimes below my videos, is that, okay, like, this is all cool, but can actually be a profitable language? I'm sure it can be, but I would like to know from your point of view, maybe from real experience. We would like to have a discussion about this. Yeah.
yeah. Um, that's a tricky question, and I would say that there are multiple strategies that you can use to actually prioritize what you should learn when you're building a career. So, like you can actually go and learn Cobalt. There are, I think, 10 peoples in the world that know Cobalt, but you're gonna have a job for sure because all of the banks are still using that language. So there is a lot of value in learning old languages. Um, but you also have to be careful because the industry is always moving forward. So if you're learning a new skill, you should be a bit early, I think, in that new skill. So if you're learning Java today, so um, there is a lot of Java job out there, but is this industry growing, or is it uh, going smaller over time? So you have to manage that risk when you're learning a skill. Um, so if you're looking towards picking Rust to learn for a job, I think it's probably a good time to do it because a lot of companies are actually adopting it for a lot of different workflows. So obviously you can work at really big companies writing low level software, writing operating system. I think Linux has Rust now in the kernel, so there are only two languages in the kernel, maybe three with assembly, but you've got C and now Rust. So it's a pretty, let's say, demonstration of the adoption of Rust. Obviously this is low level programming, this is system programming, but if you want to do, let's say, web programming, because a lot of applications today are actually um, web applications, I think Rust is also becoming more and more used in this area. And you can look at a lot of AI companies. Like I think the X team built all of the Grok web services, API, and infrastructure in Rust. So a lot of new projects are actually being written in Rust because it's convenient, it's fast, it's easy to develop. There is a lot of ecosystem already built to build web services out there. So if you want to work on new products, I think it's probably a good idea to learn that language. If you want to work, and it depends on where you are located also, so look at the specific companies that are around your area, look at what languages they are using. That's always a good way if you're really looking for a job. um, but yeah, if you want to work at an older company on an already made product, want to maintain that product, obviously you can learn those languages like Java if you want to learn in telecom and all of those things. So it really depends on what you want to do.
Yes, I agree. I always mention that for me, Rust is always the soft spot for everything. is the good compromise between efficiency and safety, a good bet, because you also mentioned COBOL, but maybe if there are just 10 jobs with COBOL, probably those 10 people are really good at COBOL. So you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
they're
replace
probably really good.
one of those 10 people, or maybe you have to wait until they retire, but I don't know if you have the patience. So I always find that Rust as a good compromise. Maybe we are just a bit early, I think, just a bit early. But as you mentioned, this is why, for example, I put so much pressure on people that probably is a good moment to learn Rust, because it's a bet for your future. And there are many reasons for me. I can even I think I'm preparing a talk like why you should learn Rust. So I'm actually preparing even some. It will also be a talk and a video, and there are many reasons. And I think that one of them is that yes, you can be a bit of ahead on the curve of like people who are actually looking for jobs or looking for things. And I honestly think that probably if you already have some knowledge, maybe you already know how to do a full stack application, maybe it's better to learn another programming language rather than another framework that might be abandoned on an ecosystem that you already know. This is my take. It might be good or wrong, but I think that learning because our language it has less dependencies. It's
Yeah,
more like something that probably it will be used. For example, we have seen Python exploding in the last 10 years. I started, I think, learning Python. I think it was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. It was not that popular. 11 years
no,
ago, it was a,
10 years
it
ago it
was
wasn't that popular. It was
it
mostly
was
an
not that popular.
academic language, a
I was
toy
studying
language
this.
to
I was
learn.
studying
Yeah,
this during my university. So it was a very academic. Say, oh my god,
yeah,
another academic language. Instead, it was very useful because
yeah,
I learned that at university. I think yes, it was 10, 12 years ago, and yes, it was not that popular. It was kind of niche, but
yeah,
that was probably a good course. So for me, so I also
yeah,
used that a lot, Python, for example, for a while. I think that Rust might be the next exploding language, or maybe it already exploded, but I mean like really mainstream in the mainstream adoption. I think
yeah.
it has
I
it has
agree.
the potential. I think we had a new version today. I don't know if you said, but it's really
Yeah, I think it
today's news.
yesterday, and all of my
Today,
CI and GitHub actions broke because of that. So I had to fix
perfect.
the clippy warnings, the formatting warnings. It's the usual. I think 5 weeks,
That's fine.
fixing the CI. But yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
because
think
we
you're
are.
right. I,
Mhm,
I think you're right. I think the next big language would probably be Rust.
mhm,
Um, Mostly
mhm.
because, well, it's because of multiple things. But I want to go first to, should you learn it? I think the question should be, what's the risk of learning it, and what's the risk of not learning it? And I think if um, you look at that, there is almost no risk to learning a new language. That's always good to know. Maybe you are a bit early, but like I learned it during my undergrad. I didn't use Rust, I think, for 4 years after that, but still, after I still knew the language and I was able to pick it up. So you can learn it a bit too early, and maybe you're gonna face opportunities in the future, and you're gonna be ready for those because you're already a bit familiar with the language. So I think it's probably a good idea to learn it today. There is almost no risk towards doing that. Choosing it for your next like commercial project, it's another discussions, but it's not the same decision making process. For learning, I think you should probably do it. Um, yeah,
Yes, and I would like to talk about, for example, a weak point of Rust. Let's say if I mention someone, I don't know what is a weak point of Rust, and some people probably mention it's hard to learn. For example, this is one of the three points. But if we think twice, first now there is Francesco doing videos. No, I'm joking. But let's say first we have creators. Doing content. I see now more people
yeah,
creating videos. I'm also writing a book, shameless plug. But let's say there are people who are starting to teach you it. Second, you can also use AI. I prefer to learn from humans, but let's say that you can also use it to understand things. Absolutely, I still think that you should know what you're doing. So I would never, create, for example, an application just in COBOL just because I can,
Should do
because
vibe code applications.
or vibe code applications. Yeah, I mean, but there is some just something worse than vibe coding. I'm against vibe coding. I'm going to put this in some talks, which is vibe coding in a language you don't know. So
Yeah,
I think it's weird.
that's
I
a
think it's
risky
weird.
move. That's a risky
It's
move. Yeah,
risky
yeah,
because I mean, if we have, if you want to have fun, if you want to make, a hello world in COBOL, I don't know, to create. I don't know if you can create APIs in COBOL. Maybe you can,
I don't
and
know
maybe you have
actually.
something. Maybe you have something working, but we know that the code is never static. It's never like
Yeah,
settled. It's the
nope.
opposite. You always want to add features. You want to add stuff. This is understand this if you ever wrote some production code. Of course, if you are in your room and you want to have fun, and if you want to check, I don't know, if you can create an assembly application or a C application if you never coded in C. I mean, I think you can make it in some ways. That's different from writing code for some code that goes in production, even if you're an employee, or even
Yeah,
worse if you have a company. So that's why I
yeah,
push so much for understanding the things that will be written by AI, that be AI assisted, of course, written. So one of the weak points on Rust is probably the learning curve. But now let's
I
say that
don't
there are
think it's
some.
actually the biggest downside of Rust
Mhm.
because there is a lot of content out there, and I believe it's actually easier to pick up Rust than a lot of other languages. But you're just at the beginning, you're um, you actually have to learn a lot of, let's say, computer science knowledge before you can actually become productive. So
Mhm.
if you don't have a computer science background, if you don't
Mhm.
know what is a mutex, if you don't know what is the stack, if you don't know what is the heap, then yeah, it's a lot of things to learn. But those are essential if you want to actually write good software. Even if you're writing it in Python, that everything is abstracted, it's actually very useful. Um, and Rust actually put those concepts up front. So for learning, that's actually great
Mhm.
because you can learn Rust and all of the knowledge that you acquire can be translated into other languages, and you're going to be better in those languages because of Rust. And yeah, it's going to be a bit longer before you can get something that you're happy with. Like your server maybe is going to be a bit longer to create. The application is going to take a bit longer to build if you're new to the language because you have to learn all of those steps, but everything's gonna be in place so that it's not becoming a maintenance hell essentially. Like you said, a software is never finished, it's always an evolving system, and that's actually where Rust shines the most, is that it makes maintenance very easy, so you can grow your software and maintain it really easy, really easier than other languages.
Yes, of course, I was playing the devil's advocate. Otherwise, probably we would agree on everything. So I'm trying to, to put me in the shoes of people who are criticizing us. But of course, I agree with what you said, because I think that I like what you said before. That like we are going in a direction when probably this language might be used more. So probably knowing it. 1 year, 2 years before everyone else, it might be a good thing. As probably has been, I don't know, for example, learning Python 10 years
Yeah,
ago, 15 years ago. We are trying to also stand out as developers, because now that we have, and I think now that we have all these AI tools that are basically, just leveling basically everyone's skills. This is, of course, another devil's advocate thing, but let's say that now writing a lot of code became easier. There's a lot of boilerplate code. Of course, you need to understand which one is good and what is bad. But let's say that
yeah,
writing code, I will never say that it's useless, but it's become, a bit less relevant. It's like, I don't know, I don't know, if you build a house, probably, the act of just building a single brick, a single wall is becoming a bit less relevant, and it's more about, the infrastructure. We are creating different houses, different
yeah.
buildings, because we will always have applications. Probably we will have even more complicated applications. Maybe we want applications that are performant by let's say by default, maybe since the beginning, because
Yeah, you
yes.
want a fast application and secure application by default. So that's not optional if you're writing software. It should be secure and it should be fast. Otherwise, it's
Yes,
not gonna get used. So
yes, and especially you need something which is, maybe it make you, because when something is performant, it means that probably maybe you need less hardware equal less money, and this is something probably someone who has a company, they something that maybe look for. So that's a very interesting part. And yes, so
but
yeah.
that's also something that programmers tend to overdo. So you don't want to optimize your application before you get some usage, and I think that's important. And a lot of arguments against using Rust compared to, let's say, Python or JavaScript is that you don't need the speed for a web server. You don't need to scale to millions of users if you don't yet have 10 users. And I think that's actually true. But if you're using Rust, the thing is that you won't spend time optimizing. That's you're gonna write simple Rust code, and the simple Rust code is gonna go fast enough most of the time. But that's unfortunately not true of Python. If you're writing Python, especially in machine learning or sometime probably in web developer, you have a lot of bottlenecks that you need to optimize. But optimizing Python is extremely hard. So you don't you have a global interpreter lock. You cannot do multi-threading. You cannot you have to do multiple processes. You have to handle serializations. You don't have guards for race conditions. So it's extremely hard to actually optimize Python. And you don't want to go where your web services are too slow and that you have to optimize the Python code, because then it's going to be so long and so hard to do. In Rust, you will probably not even notice that your code is inefficient because the Rust compiler optimizes it fast enough for to support a lot of users. So even if it takes like 10% more time to build your application, you're gonna spend like 50% less time trying to optimize it. So that's how I balance the speed of using Rust and why I think it's worth it, even for new products.
Yes, so we will see in the future. I think that we still need. I think in the terms of ecosystem, we can. It is still has to improve. Maybe we need more these frameworks to be more solid, to be more let's say stable. So for sure, maybe more people working on them, or maybe we need a new one. I don't know, but I like for now the direction I see, and every year I see more good news. For example, I don't know how much, for example, you are into the blockchain ecosystem, but for example, I've seen way more blockchains like adopting Rust. Before it was just Solana, and now more companies are switching more. Maybe even Ethereum is blinking their eye to Rust, and that for example, so Ethereum usually uses Solidity as a programming language. So, and this is just in terms of adoption. So I'm always happy. Usually, I think I met Google developer advocate in Berlin, and he mentioned that, for example, I think that they had Google Cloud Platform SDK is written in Rust. I think
Oh,
I can't
really?
remember what exactly is, but I want to invite him to have some discussions. So always good news, I would say, in this term.
Yeah.
And yes, so that's the thing. And Natha, I would like maybe to know a bit more, for example, what you are currently working on at Tracel AI, and also would like you to explain. Yes, also Polkadot is built with Rust. Thank you so much, Kratistos. So this is on the blockchain ecosystem.
Cool.
Yes, and and I think that is great that we Rust. I mean, Rust is not being sold as a blockchain language, but it shows how versatile it can be,
Yeah.
super powerful. For example, I started learning Rust also because I've been studying the Web3 and blockchain concepts, and now I got into the Rust world. So I decided to do a step back, and instead of learning, um, for example, a blockchain framework, say, okay, let's do a step back and let's learn a language first. And it was a great choice, for example, for me. So that's also a bit of my background. Yes, so Nath, I would like to know more about what you are currently working on. at Tracel AI. I'm really curious about this. And so, can you give me like an idea in or like what you're currently working on, or maybe you are currently focused on? Because now everything
Yeah,
is AI, so I
yeah,
want
we're
to
doing
know
a lot
really
of
know more.
things.
Yeah.
Uh, but what I'm like really focused on is mostly performance of neural network training and inference. So we're building a tensor library. So it's a scientific library to do numerical computing. So you can use it to actually train LLMs, fine tune LLMs, deploy them, but also vision models. So if you want to, classify images, um, and yeah, mostly to do machine learning. So we're building an ecosystem around that. And why I started working on this, it's not just because I wanted to actually expand the Rust ecosystem. It's because the current ecosystem, I think, is lacking a few properties that I would like to see. And that's actually why I started working on Burn. So with the current ecosystem of machine learning, normally you have to choose between portability. So is your neural network going to run on any hardware? Performance. So, is it going to be efficient or is it going to cost a lot of cloud compute? And third is the flexibility. Are you going to be able to write the latest model or try new research? So, normally there is no good tool that allows you to do all of those three at the same time. So, you can use specific frameworks that are really flexible and that are especially efficient on NVIDIA GPUs. And that's actually why mostly all research in machine learning is done on NVIDIA GPUs because it's flexible and it's very performant. But obviously, you cannot run it on your laptop on an AMD graphics card. So that's kind of a problem. So that's why I created Burn at the beginning. And right now, we're working a lot into optimizing a lot of neural networks and numerical functions. Uh, so user will not have to change their code, but it's gonna always uh, be faster and be more portable. So right now, our deep learning framework supports AMD GPU, NVIDIA GPUs, Mac GPUs, CPUs, ARM CPUs as well. So we support a lot of hardware. So that was the first goal, and it's very flexible as well. And now we're really trying to optimize performance um, to leverage all of the hardware to the max. So that's what I'm the most excited right now, because I believe AI should not only be used for big chatbots in the cloud, but it should be embedded in any application, and everybody should be able to actually train their model for not a ton of money, not millions of dollars in training, but you should be able to do it on small servers and maybe even your laptop on your own data. So that's why I'm pushing it in that direction. Um, so yeah, and I like to go back to the first question that you asked a few moments ago is what's the biggest downside of Rust? From my point of view, that's actually the compilation time. So that's actually the biggest drawback. I spent a lot of time trying to optimize compilation time for our framework. It's not easy. So obviously that's something that I would like to see the language improve on. Um, but yeah, still I benefit from all of the other characteristics. So I'm still happy with it.
Yes, and as usual, I like to be very transparent on this. So probably that's not one of the strong point of Rust, but uh, let's say you need to decide maybe what's more relevant to you. Because, for example, if you have a security issue, you're basically doomed and cursed forever. If you have some
Yeah,
extra seconds compiling, it might even be a pro that you can take some rest. So it might even be seen as a not necessarily a bad thing. So, but yes, But for example, I think that in the future we might have, for example, some faster compiler times, and maybe we'll
yeah.
find ways, maybe we'll have some options. I don't know, some lightweight build modes. I think we already have, let's say, between Luca Goran and stuff.
Yeah,
But
I
let's
think
say,
that binary patching is becoming possible. I've not used it, but that's because the most of the time it's not necessarily the compiler that is slow, it's the linking part that is slow because Rust actually creates one binaries with all of the things included in it. So it's easy to deploy, but creating that binary sometimes is slow. So yeah, with binary patching, I think that's probably helping a lot in that direction. So I still believe it's gonna be better in the future. And for users right now, it might be like, especially if you have an old computer that is very slow, maybe it's like not fun. Like, it removes a bit of the fun of programming if it's too slow. But the frameworks creator, like I am, um, we're also working on trying to improve the compilation speed for our own framework. So, and I learned a lot of things in the last year on how to improve the compilation time. So I think there is, yes, one, the language should become faster to compile, but then also the ecosystem in the language, all of the crates that are available, all the packages that are available, they can also work to improve the compilation time of their software. So both of those things should improve at the same time. So yeah, I'm still optimistic.
Great. Yes, I would say that we will see, but of course there is not a perfect programming language. But maybe in the future these compile times they will improve. And yes, I check. By the way, you have been we are ready for 45 minutes, and I would like maybe to mention that Burn.dev is an open source project. I'm currently checking it now, and it looks very interesting. I would like maybe to check it out. Maybe I will just do a separate live stream about that. So today we'll just talk. Yes. Yeah, sometimes I have some microphone issue. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think there is a microphone issue. I thought it was my headphones that was giving up on me. No, I think you're muted.
How is it now?
It's perfect now.
Okay, perfect. No, I have to do something, but I forget to do this before every live events. Thank you so much for Razvan. Yes, so about this Burr project, I think it has is also quite famous. I think it has a lot of traction. I see on GitHub. I think it has 15,000 stars. So it's not like a small project. It's not a side project, a weekend
Yeah, it's
project.
not a side project anymore. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, and I really love the steps here, like start developing, like all this stuff. So that might be interesting to try it out. Also, the basic example you're using TensorFlow.
No, we're actually building all of the compilers underneath. So
Okay, no, sorry, because I read the Tensor, but it's just that's like the real Tensor, not TensorFlow.
yeah, Tensor is actually
It's the real Tensor,
the
the
data
physical thing.
structure that are used to
Okay.
create neural networks. So yeah.
My bad. I was trying to have an eye on the stream and an eye here. I read the tensor. Say, okay, it might be TensorFlow library, but it was not. Yes, use
Yeah,
burn
no
tensor.
problem.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so maybe I'm curious. I will probably try it out because I have this computer science background, so it's always interesting for me to try these things. I left the link here. And yes, now I have one question, which is about the upcoming conference. So,
Yeah,
is this your first time at RustConf, and will you be a
yeah,
speaker
it's gonna
there?
be my first time. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
gonna
will
be my
come
first
there.
time.
Perfect. I'm coming there as a creator, and I think I'll also have a talk there. We can definitely do something in person there, apart from doing the
Yeah,
selfies. Okay, that's mandatory, of course. But we will, for sure, we can do something in person, even some interview in person. Do you? What else do you know about the RustConf? I heard that maybe there might be some workshop or some other stuff. So, is there
yeah,
anything else you know about the RustConf?
yeah. Obviously, they are conference, so I'm gonna do one. I think I mentioned Deoxys at the beginning. I think there is also a conference with the Deoxys creator. So a lot of good talks. And if you're interested in AI too, I think there is gonna be a workshop for embedded AI in Rust. So where I think you can deploy
Interesting.
a model on. I think it's a Raspberry Pi. I'm unsure, but yeah, you're gonna learn to do all of those things using Rust. So pretty exciting stuff.
Okay. I think I have a Raspberry Pi, and I'm tempted to bring it to Seattle. I maybe I will. Who knows? If I'm
It's gonna
crazy
become
enough, I will.
alive. It's gonna become alive with AI on it.
Let's see, we'll see. But I'm really that close to just bring the Raspberry Pi at the conference. But yes, so really curious about that part. And yes, so thank you for coming. This has been a very interesting discussion, also because I'm always focused on the educational part, learning the language, all the things. But maybe you gave also a point of view on how Rust can be used for real, which I think that we need more of this now, and see in what probably is something that is worth doing in the future. I think that for now I don't see any sign of like Rust slowing down. I always see good signs. I don't know if this is also your point of view. We will have also, and I always like. This is also something that I did, for example, about blockchain a couple of years back. I always like to go to in-person events because you always have the real taste of what is the ecosystem. If it's just some hype, or if it's something like also meet like relevant people who are currently building using that technologies. We have the the wish and the possibility to go there, moving their body to there. So it takes some effort going to these conferences, but then you have a clear idea. This is also one of the reasons why I'm coming. I think it's 15 hours of flight from Rome, and
Oh,
15 hours, and I've been lucky. I think with just one transfer, so I've been lucky. But it's quite far from me. But I really want to know to check with my eyes in person what might be maybe the best frameworks, the real, like the in person hype. I think is always it's different and is usually worth more, of
yeah,
course. So
yeah.
we will see. I don't know how many other models they will release before RustConf, probably 3 or 4 or 5, I have no idea. I'll also take 10 days off before coming to conference. Probably something will happen in those 10 days. They will release some other AI model. But yes, if in case you have some questions, you can drop them. We had a small technical issue because I had two YouTube channels, and basically we didn't go live on YouTube, but it's fine. Some people came on Twitch, and I'll probably republish this, so no problem. It's important that we have it. And yes, so if you have any question, you can drop it. So Nath, I'd like maybe you to give some final thoughts about especially the Rust ecosystems and jobs, and also of course Rust and AI, because now everything is AI. But I think that this is a strong point for Rust. So like when we mentioned Rust and AI, and I think that in the future it will work very well. I think AI will empower Rust. I'm a strong believer of this. Let's see if I'm right or wrong, but I think it will AI and all these models will give a boost to Rust once we will have even maybe a bigger Rust code base, maybe on the LLM. So probably we need still some months, but that will not be an issue. So of course, and now there are currently larger code bases on LLMs just for, let's say, normal and historical reasons for languages. So that's the only thing that should be fixed. Once we'll have more, let's say, ways to write AI assisted code with Rust, I think we'll have a very good experience in different fields and not just system programming. So Nat, please give us some final thoughts,
Yeah,
and then we can wrap
yeah.
up today's event. Yeah.
I think this is true. I think Rust can also contribute a lot to the infrastructure of AI. That's actually what I'm working on. So, making sure everything is secure, everything is fast, and everything works everywhere. Um, but also those LLM, the a lot of AI products out there are helping programmer write codes. So, the vibe coding, let's say, movement out there, I think can actually benefit a lot from Rust. And I think the reasons why are quite technical. Mostly, if you know the limitations of the current LLMs, it's a lot with the context window. So um, how much memory, how much like local memory a model can have and play with. So if you have a huge code base, you cannot embed all of the code in the model and then ask it to actually help fix a bug or improve a function. It's pretty hard. And the benefit of having Rust, and it's also the same for humans, is that it reduces the cognitive load when writing code because you don't have to know all of the code base at the same time because you can actually look at the types, look at the traits, which are contracts, and then based on those type definitions with our like scope in one page of code, you can actually start to already contribute to a project. You don't need to read all of the project to actually contribute. And this is actually why type languages scale well with larger projects. Because even as human, you cannot know how a big repository of code works in its entirety. And that's the same thing for AI. So I think it's gonna improve the way AI can generate code. And second, the code generated by AI now also has to uh, work with the type system of Rust. So there is another layer of validation because now with those AI assistant, the bottleneck is not necessarily in writing the code, but it's actually in making sure the code works flawlessly. And it's the validation part. And this is hard. You have to write tests, but you also have to do all of the static analysis that the type system and the ownership of Rust allows. So I think all of those characteristic of Rust makes it a really good language to be paired with AI. So that's my thoughts on the matter.
Yes, we have similar thoughts that we will see. For sure, I think AI is here to stay. I think we all agree on this. I see, for example, in the JavaScript ecosystem, there's always this fight of like, what's the framework picked up by AI? So that's that's something that I don't know if this will ever be fixed or not. Yes, so we will see in the future. I like structured languages because I think that this helps us even to understand them better. I
Yeah,
loved for the first time I read the trait. Okay, what is this trait? Ah, okay, sort of interface, but like I really love the
yeah,
name, for example, the naming convention. I say, okay, it absolutely
yeah.
makes sense. I remember me on the first interface lesson, I didn't get it right. I think nobody got it on the first university stuff, but it absolutely made sense. Maybe I have also some experience, but it made sense after understanding it.
Yeah,
And yes, so they're not exact interfaces, but of course we are just talking in layman terms here, just to understand the concepts. We just grasp the concept. So Nat, thank you for coming. Looking forward for the RustConf. I think I will come in full DevRel mode, so I will come bring this camera, microphones, other stuff, tripods. So you will probably see me around doing stuff. And I will also, yes, about the talk. I have a couple of ideas, but I want to finalize them. But that's normal. Thank you for this open conversation. I think we need to talk more about this aspect of Rust because usually, let's say, I like to try new things. Not a huge fan of just doing things just for the sake of the hype. This has also been for when I was talking more about, for example, the blockchain technology. So I always like to have an educational approach, understanding how things work, and then, of course, just you can leave a bit of hype when there is something new and released. That we are humans, so we like to have to be excited about something new, some new technologies. And we're looking forward for the improvement of the whole ecosystem. Really,
yeah,
I would like to come back from RustConf, say like, okay, now I know something new. I know what exactly is gonna be like the next bet. So I want to test this in person. I remember me going to the first conference. At some point, someone mentioned Node.js, and I always just used Java because I don't know. I was young before, and then I remember some people mentioned say like Node.js, and they asked like, "Do you all know Node.js, right?" And like everyone like in the room raise their hand except for me. Said, okay, maybe I have to check Node.js when I'll be
Yeah.
back home. So I'm waiting for something like that, because then we will go in person. You will understand maybe what is worth learning, especially about the web frameworks. I'm absolutely excited about that. And yes, maybe yes, I will bring some my Raspberry Pi and see if I will go absolutely crazy. So that's so. Thank you, Nat. It has been an interesting conversation. Looking forward for more stuff and things. We left all the links. I think I will republish this video on YouTube, no problem. But the important part is that we made it. And yes, so thanks for coming,
Yeah, thanks
everyone.
for having me.
And yeah, it has been a very nice conversation, Nat. And yeah, see you in the soon, basically in a
See you in
couple of
Seattle.
in 3 weeks. Remember to take
Yeah.
the flights and the hotel.
Yeah. I have to do that.
Okay.
Thanks a
Bye
lot.
bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.